Good evening, everyone. We'll get this meeting started. So we'll call to order. 6:02. We respect and recognize the First Nations given whose unceded lands the village of Kaslo is situated, including the Ktunaxa, Silks, and the Snakes people, and the Indigenous and Métis residents of our community. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? By Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leawood. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Can I just say, getting a message from the Valley Voice that we really have no sound.
Oh.
And she can't tell me because the microphone isn't working.
Moving back and forth as if.
Is it having happy green lights?
There's happy green lights.
Can you hear me, Rachel? Oh, right. Can you
hear us now?
No, she cannot hear.
Okay.
You want me to unplug it? See if that'll start.
Yeah.
Or sample this.
Okay. It's making happy green sounds there, and we're getting.
we get thumbs up now? No? Okay. What about you, Mr. Woodhurst? Are you able to hear us?
We're seeing when we talk, we're seeing the audio go up and down there. So we do have audio going in.
Yeah, well, Barry has unmuted, so I'm thinking maybe you could hear us, but
why don't you into the Zoom on your cell phone and
well, I'm on Zoom on my computer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And if you turn up the volume, could you hear?
Well, I could hear myself. What about now? No.
Feedback.
Yeah. We got sound. Yeah.
Okay, we'll decide. There you go. I can confirm.
Nope.
You have sound?
And we don't have chat enabled on this, so I can't send a message.
Mhm.
Okay,
We can hear you there.
that's coming through the council chamber speakers from my microphone.
okay, we're getting sound
Can you
in.
hear us, Catherine? Can you hear us through the microphone?
Yes, I can hear you through my speakers.
I'm doing what I was just writing her a note to do to try logging on and off.
Mhm.
Maybe that'll work
Might be speaker.
for him, yeah. Sometimes if you put the earphones in at the wrong time, it doesn't work.
Mhm.
So we've lost Rachel,
I think she probably just left to try to come back.
trying to come back, and she's admitting her again.
How about now? Anything? We can't hear
She doesn't
you.
have a microphone.
Oh,
Okay.
No.
Can you hear us now though? No?
So
weird, very weird.
wondering if Mr. Woodhurst is able to hear us.
I think that it was on my end. I'm so sorry. I can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you too.
I'm so sorry. Thank you. Oops.
All right.
All right, where were we? Was that?
We just adopted the agenda.
Yeah,
Adoption of the agenda,
Okay.
you called the question, but maybe we haven't actually had a vote on it.
okay. So all those in favor of adoption of the agenda, that motion is carried. And adoption of the minutes of the November 12th meeting, if there are no errors or omissions. That's moved by Councillor Bird, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And we have no delegations this evening. Council reports. So I've provided my written report and provide a bit of an update. Well, I think I'll go with the fun stuff. Today, we had a class, the kindergarten grade 1 class with their teacher, Ms. Dryden, attend, and along with some teacher helpers or parent helpers. And we did there were about 17 of them, and we did, so Catherine and I did some mock council meetings with them. So they were sitting around the table and they took turns. So we had enough of them for 3 sessions, and we decided that we would talk about something that appealed to children, and that was about park, playground improvements and what they would like to see.
Oh, fun.
So they went around the table and they each provided what they would like to see for playground improvement or facilities, and they voted. And trampoline, a zip line,
Zip line,
and
of
a
course.
tree house.
Okay, all right.
So,
Gonna do tree up the zip line over to the trampoline upstairs.
that's right. Would be dangerous, but no, it was very nice, and they were so cute. And then we took them upstairs and sort of interrupted Ian while he was working, but he was great. He came out. With the things that fascinated them was quite interesting. They were really attracted to the model of City Hall.
Yeah, the kids love that one.
Yeah. So then we did a little tour up there, and then came down and met Robert and Lee, and then I remember Lee because he had been on the tour that they took him on the tour with Search and Rescue. So they got to see them. So I took that opportunity to talk to them about volunteerism, and that Lee was a volunteer. So, different opportunities for them to volunteer. So, but it was really nice. And I think that's the first time that I ever remember since I've been on council that we've had a school group.
Oh, I brought, a couple of years I brought.
Oh.
But we didn't have a council.
Oh,
We
okay.
did go upstairs, and they
Okay.
did love the model. of
Oh,
the
okay.
City Hall. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, any questions about my written report? All right, so we'll move on. Are there any reports from members of council? Councillor Brown.
To the chair. This past Thursday, the community forest met. A great deal of the meeting was about the Winter of the Forest Festival, which is, we're excited to say that this year Jessie Lay is going to be kind of spearheading the efforts, taking over from Chloe, and who did such a great job. Yeah, so we spoke about that and about hopefully being able to partner with the Housing Society as has always happened in the past, and getting all of those things kind of in motion for our December meeting to let things up.
Councillor Bird? No. Councillor Reed? No. All right. So then we'll move on to committee meetings. We've got the minutes from the Health Advisory Committee. And then we'll move to staff reports and the CAO. It's a report for this evening.
Mayor, keep it short. So RV park, we now have all the information that's provided, has been provided to council in the way of staff reports, planning reports, now on the website for the public to view. Staff had a couple of phone calls and in-person meetings with people, clarify information in the last week. And Kaslo Day contacted Transport Canada to talk about the mooring buoys and let them know that there might be some that aren't registered. So staff will keep working with them to see if there's any enforcement or inspections they want to perform. And similarly, we reported to initially RAP about the possibility of sewage being dumped into the bay from liveaboard vessels. And they referred us to a couple of different federal agencies. So staff will pursue that as time permits. Just wanted council to know that staff have put some time into that since I believe it come up on a couple of occasions in the last 8 months. And protective services, we have the regional district providing inspections of public buildings, commercial buildings, as well as village buildings. And so they'll be doing the rounds this week and giving people inspection reports. And the good news is it's been indicated that that's just part of the service through our fire department and the regional district. It's not something that would be an additional expense to the Village of Kaslo at this point. Although I believe in one of our bylaws does state that the cost can be invoiced to businesses if the village pursued that. So keep you posted. And then just 2 other items that aren't on your written report, but are worth highlighting. The library would like to meet with the village to chat about developing an operating budget for the proposed new library building. So staff will get back to them at some point this week and try to arrange an in-person meeting to discuss what needs to be done to develop that budget. Likely the library board would want to know what the value of the lease agreement would be with the village. But of course, that depends on a lot of things. So some work to be done there. And then there was a staff, the mayor, of course, attended a Chamber of Commerce meeting. You might recall that the Chamber was given a copy of the business license bylaw amendments. And although none of the proposed amendments, are real meaty for our businesses in town, they did provide comment that in 2023, letters and other feedback were provided to the village regarding mobile vendors. And so staff will review that feedback as part of their full review of the bylaw in 2025.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, Councillor Leawood, no, Councillor Lang.
Thank you, the chair. So just for the general public, because I think people are still writing letters in about South Beach, expecting us to address them at the council meeting. So for the general public, anytime we get a letter, now it's going into that, the website or the information where we've got all the information. Or
Sorry, we haven't included the correspondence that we've received. We're just posting the information that has been presented to council, like copies of staff reports, copies of the appraiser's report is on there. So not so much the feedback from council, because council has already seen that.
right, okay,
And it was really intended more for council's information, I think, than for the general public's information. So this is trying to make sure that the information is going the other direction,
Mhm.
and that the information that council is already familiar with is equally accessible.
Okay, thank you. And one other question about the protective services. So this is a service that we've had like every year, right? We've always had someone come up, and so now, and in the past, I believe organizations have paid for it. No. Mhm.
I can only speak to sort of what's been happening since 2021. And the provisions in the business license bylaw do allow for the village to pass on the cost of fire inspections, but we have not done so. So I don't know whether that was for the pre-COVID, whether those inspections were being billed back to the property owners or not. but I can certainly say that since 2021, they haven't been.
Okay.
There has been no additional cost.
Yeah.
The village has been invoiced.
Yeah.
For our properties. From the IMC, yeah.
Right, so, but that's not being carried over to the, like, the arena or, because we have paid for some inspections, but I thought it was fire and safety, but maybe I'll check and see.
I think it would, like, you would have to have your fire alarm systems inspected by a private contractor.
Okay,
And so this is a little bit different, but yeah, as CEO Baker said, the village used to contract with a private company to do it. And then in 2023, we contracted with the regional district to deliver the service. And now the regional district is delivering the service in the absence of a formal contract. So there's the cost of the service is being covered by the requisition rather than as a separate contract outside of the service.
okay, thank you.
And as an occupant of a building that had been inspected for 22 years, there was never any cost passed on to that business owner. Councillor Lang.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, just a couple of things. On the fire inspections, is it reasonable to assume that every commercial business in town will be inspected? Is that the plan?
For the chair, every commercial business that can be building, that can be inspected, so there's some that are closed for the season, so there might not be 100%. Fire department's gonna visit every building that they can get access to at this time.
Yeah, well, it would be nice if they could make it up to the golf course. I would not object to that at all, but they're only open for very limited hours. And I think 4 days a week, so. But anyway, the second thing was the boys in the bay. I know for a fact there's at least half a dozen new ones that have showed up in the last month. And I have I think I know who put them there, but clearly they're not legal. So hopefully this investigation results in some action. And that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then we have our correspondence. I never checked with you. Did we have no circulation package this time? No circulation package. Interesting. Okay. That's the first. We would have at least one correspondence there. All right, so that brings us to question period. Are there any members of the public or the press who would like to ask a question? I could see that you have unmuted Mr. Woodhurst. Can you hear us and do you have a question for us? We can't hear you at all.
Turn this microphone off.
Okay. It was from Dawn.
Yeah.
And Rachel, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks.
All right. You want to try again, Barry? If you can hear me, maybe try logging on and off again, or off and then on again, rather. Because if you were speaking, we weren't able to hear you at all. All right, so we will move into business then. The first item is the business license amendment bylaw 1307/2024. Staff report has been provided. The recommendation is that business license amendment bylaw number 1307/2024 be given second and third reading as presented. Moved by Councillor Lang. Second by Councillor Bird for discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Bird.
Yes. Sorry, through the chair.
So I guess this is the second time in 2024 we've been asked to. Oh, this is the business license bylaw. I'm ahead of myself with the fees and charges bylaw. I did submit some observations about the business license bylaw by email. And so the way it seems to work with, we give first reading so that it opens it up for us to contribute our ideas. And in this case, rather than the next time when we're looking at second reading and third, am I to assume that there's no discussion and no opportunity for input at this time? It seems like this is a case of it being so close to the end of the year that the preference would be to just push it through and then look at this again in the new year, which kind of was the promised in 2023 that we would look at it again in 2024. And we're doing this piecemeal and instead of having a proper look at it. So that's my comment is I think we should have, as a council, done more to examine this thoroughly, as there's the I guess most of my comments were, for instance, the cannabis business fee. I know Matt had made a comment about that last year, and that hasn't changed. That one was rather high for no particular reason. And I think the rest of those, so my comments are really all about the fees and charges. Except for the fact that the mobile vendor business license is, we had some discussion about 5 being an awful lot. And as 5 licenses being allowed to operate within the village of Kaslo. And I see the amendments on the table right now are all to make the administration of all the business license, so to provide clarity and to make the administration much simpler. And I think those are all good amendments. I think we did get a lot of feedback from business owners that the mobile food vendor, that $200 license fee is not enough to sort of level the playing field between the brick and mortar businesses that operate year round and then the mobile vendors that come in and just are able to take advantage of the high summer season and then leave. And that the $200 fee just makes it too easy for them to just set up and do business compared to everybody else, but B, it's not enough to persuade them to stay open all the time. And we've seen that in the last year where we had 5 mobile vendor licenses issued and yet very, very spotty actual business from them, because $200 for a business person is really nothing, you know, for a license that lasts 6 months. And so we saw that, and then there were other mobile vendors who wanted to actually have a spot and they couldn't because the license was held by someone who didn't actually make much use of it. So that all comes down to a $200 fee is sort of not enough to be important to somebody to keep itself open and make some money. So the small fee was an issue, and if I could make an amendment, I'd make 2 amendments on that one. As far as the mobile vendors go, is that we categorize them. So we have a food service, because it was really the restaurants as a whole that were complaining the most. Food service, that there would be category food service and then other, and that we limit the number of mobile vendors that are allowed in the heritage zone. Maybe to 1 or 2, because they're not really heritage, and unless they're gonna bend from a wall tent, it's extremely not heritage. So to have potentially 5 in the downtown heritage course is too many, and in the bylaw, we can limit where they go. And done in other jurisdictions. Nelson limits the number downtown, and we could limit the number downtown, and my suggestion is 2. And then it would also encourage, if it was vendors, to be in other parts of town, say Upper Kaslo, down the park, and other places. What's another, I think they should also get inspected by the fire department. That's something Nelson does, and it's not part of their licensing requirements that they get inspected by the fire department. And
So while you're thinking, I'll let staff respond and then.
yeah, because they had it in advance, so in my comment.
I think that a lot of the points that you raised, I think are super valid, and I think that the reason that the limited amendments are being put in front of council is that we had issues primarily with the automatic renewal of mobile vendor licenses, and also just the renewal provisions for annual standard business licenses. So the staff report, the public notice, and the messaging that went to the Chamber of Commerce was that the village is very interested in revisiting how mobile vendors are treated. And there are going to be additional, probably committee of the whole meetings to discuss council's preferences around that, and probably get a little bit more input from the public. Since we had the meeting in 2023, we have done a certain amount of research to gather information about how mobile vendor licenses are issued, restricted, and handled in other neighboring municipalities, similar municipalities, other jurisdictions in British Columbia. And it's pretty complex. And so, like, I think that some of the ideas that you're suggesting about having categories for different types of licenses and limiting them, I think are really good starting points for a discussion. But I think that that is a process that is going to take a fair bit of time to work through. And so the decision was made to try and at least get the housekeeping part of the bylaw through, so that we're starting our January billings, our administrative processes are following the bylaw in January. And then the further amendments to business license bylaw are on the work plan for 2025. Hopefully we'll be able to do it in 2025 before the busy summer season starts.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question for clarification? The mobile vendors are only allowed where the zoning allows, so that means that the only place that they're allowed is in the downtown core. So it doesn't apply to Bimini Park or Upper Kaslo because they're not zoned commercial. Right? That's the only
Not
commercial
a
zone.
permitted use in the residential zone.
No.
So bed and breakfasts are okay, but not mobile vendors.
They are a home-based business, which is not a commercial venture.
So it's not, yeah, so, bed and breakfast is listed as a permitted use in a residential area, whereas retail operations is not. Or food service establishment is not. So the only place that you have a retail operation or a food service establishment is in the commercial zones.
So the reason I ask that is because if you would like to propose the amendment to reduce the number, which is what I heard in that zone, that would be a very simple amendment to do. It would not take staff a lot of time to amend that it down from 5 to 2, if that is what you would like to propose as an amendment going forward. And as of right now, and knowing that there is still time for other amendments.
Yeah. I did make the distinction between the heritage zone and the and the downtown core commercial, because they're not identical, are they? But the heritage zone is a bit more limited.
I have to pull up the mapping, but I think it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Like I know that, the Langham falls within the heritage zone, but the Mohawk doesn't, I think.
Yeah,
It's a funny little line.
yeah,
Just
oh,
going off my-
yeah, so I was going along that theme too, that it's, you're encouraging, stuff in the heritage zone that's anything but. Like I said, a wall tent would be interesting, you know, old school selling. Yeah, I think. Well, what you're saying is that if you limit it to two, even if it was just a heritage zone, you're virtually limiting it entirely to two.
I'll go to, while you're thinking, I'll go to Councillor Leafwood.
the chair. Doesn't our, like when they apply to have a mobile vendor, isn't there some kind of requirement for it to be safe? Because I remember that one where there was going to be a barbecue or something, and there were some issues with the fire and stuff. So isn't there some mechanism we already have for that?
There, I believe that under the provisions of the existing business license bylaw, the village has some powers. If there are public safety concerns, we can request inspections as a condition of issuing a business license.
That's like that.
So it's a may be required rather than shall be required.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that they can't just set up anywhere. They can't park on the street and vend. They have to have the support and of a business owner that currently has property in that zone. So if I had a mobile food truck and I wanted to set up somewhere, I have to have, it has to be on private property, and the private property owner has to consent to me being there. It's not, so they have to make their arrangements to do that. And if they do not have a place to locate,
Could they not get a license of occupation for a place in the park or even a parking spot?
not, we don't have that provision in the bylaws, no.
At present, there is no, business being conducted on municipal property. It's something that can be explored if that's something that council wants to consider, but it wasn't part of the deliberations that staff looked at when we were putting together these particular amendments, because that is a lot more complex, and the way that it relates to the fee structure is also going to take a fair bit of thought and consideration to get that right.
Yes, please. Yeah.
What makes sense is to give CAO an opportunity to read the 2023 letters that were received from local businesses and do some homework on what we can require in the way of fire protection, as well as chat with other staff on the research they've done for comparable communities, and put ideas together for a kind of full revision of the bylaw, and bring that back to council by the end of January, and then present it at a possible open house in early February, where public can be invited to give further feedback on these proposed revisions. If that's agreeable to council, then just let us know and we'll start moving in that direction. If you're feeling like you don't want to make amendments to the bylaw tonight, then this could be an option.
Councillor Leafwood.
If we don't make some of those amendments tonight, how's that going to affect?
Sorry, yeah, I take that back. And then extra.
Right.
So pass the bylaw, this second and third reading tonight and then the adoption would occur at the December meeting. And then further amendments could be addressed in subsequently.
Through the chair, just clarify if changes do get developed and passed, adopted in, say, February, March, does that mean they are valid for 2026? So it's shuffling the ball again and down the road for another fiscal year, right?
I would say it depends. If it's something that can be implemented, like the bylaw will take effect upon adoption is the standard unless council directs so that it's not going to take effect until 2026. So that is something that council has some choice about. If it was, let's say that the number of mobile vendors was being reduced from 5 to 2. And if we had issued 5 mobile vendor licenses in January, they would carry through for this 6-month maximum that they're allowed at the time of renewal or potential renewal. So by July if they've been adopted, if they got their license right first thing in January, then by July, if the rules could change, those new rules could take effect and would govern whether or not additional licenses could be issued for the rest of the summer. So that's why I say it really depends on the provision, because some of the provisions can only be done on that annual basis, and some of the provisions may be able to be implemented partway through the year.
Okay.
And some of the proposed revisions in this new bylaw really need to be implemented for 2025.
Yeah,
So-
for sure.
So the resolution has been moved and seconded. There are no amendments to be proposed for tonight. That could be easily done. Then call the question. Yeah, all in favor. I was just looking to Councillor Byrne to see whether she wanted to.
Well, let's see
propose.
how it goes and if I do a proper job in the spring.
Right, that motion passes. So the next one is fees and charges bylaw. The recommendation is that fees and charges amendment bylaw 1308/2024 be given first, second, and third reading. By Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. And temporary licenses of occupation for the aerodrome. So the staff gave a very good report, which outlined the differences and the rationale for the recommendations. So the first is that a temporary license of occupation be issued to Tamarack Alpine Adventures from December 1st, 2024 to November 30th, 2025, with fees in accordance with the village's fees and charges bylaw, and that staff seek an agreement with Tamarack Alpine Adventures to fund and construct groundside parking at the Kaslo Aerodrome for the 2025-26 winter season. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Leafield. Any discussions? All those in favor? That's carried. And that a temporary license of occupation be issued to Kootenai Mountain Holidays from November 28, 2024 to November 27th, 2025 at a cost of $575. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Any discussion? All those in favor? Is carried. Racket Club lease. The recommendation is that public notice be given of the village's intent to lease a portion of block 22, plan 9499, district lot 209, Kootenai Land District to the Kaslo Racket Club for a 5-year term from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2029 for $400 in the first year, with 3% increases in each subsequent year. Moved by Councillor Lang, seconded by Councillor Leafwood. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Recycle BC contract renewal. Did you want to speak to that at all before?
I kind of if you like, the short answer is the rates are being changed on January 1st, and we can choose to accept those, or we can choose to not take their money to support our recycling business.
All right, so the recommendation is that the corporate officer be authorized to sign the updated master services agreement between the Village of Kaslo and Recycle BC and the statement of work for curbside collection that will take effect January 1st, 2025. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Lang. Any discussion? All those in favor? Is carried. And next item is the council meeting schedule. The recommendation is that the 2025 regular council meeting schedule be established as follows. And as is written, I won't read them all.
We'll move for discussion.
Wait for discussion. Okay, go ahead. We have a second? Second by Councillor Leawood. Discussion?
Through the chair, not to beat a dead horse, I do note that there is an open house to be held on Tuesday, February 4th. That seems like it's an open house.
That's the next, I didn't read that. That's the next recommendation.
Oh, okay, so maybe I'll move the next one for discussion then.
Okay, but you're still moving the first one to
Absolutely.
schedule? Okay. Any further discussion on that resolution? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Put those in your calendars, although they're easy to remember, second and fourth. And then the next one is that an open house be held at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025.
I'll move that for discussion.
Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Lang, and discussion. Councillor Brown.
To the chair, I would note that this open house is fairly broad. And I would then reiterate my concern that were we to have an open house before having a town hall meeting or an open house in regards to this South Beach, that this meeting would likely end up being dominated by that topic. And I would like to move that we add an additional open house in 2025 to specifically address South Beach.
Can I suggest that we refer that to staff to come back with a potential moving date if that's what council desires at the next meeting? Because it's going to be for 2025, then because I don't think we can do that on the fly because staff would need time to look at calendars and make sure things would work. But it also has to be something that council wants, as a group wants to happen.
Thank you, Mayor Hewitt. Staff are intending to present a staff report regarding the RV park at council's next meeting. And a portion of that staff report identifies the public engagement that's occurred to date and provides council with options for public engagement at this point. So if council is in there with staff for another 2 weeks, I think we'll be able to provide good options for council to consider. The open house is one of them, and there are other options. Might be worth you kind of thinking about it as a whole rather than in the context of the open house that's part of the staff report.
Any further discussion on the resolution on the table? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Recreation grants. So because one of the applications being considered is I work for them, so I am going to remove myself from discussion for both of them because it's all contained in one staff report. So keep my lead. And Councillor Bird is acting mayor. Oh my goodness, see where I was. So here we are with item 7.7.
And this is to consider issuing additional fall recreation grant funds, and there's been a staff report. And we've also been provided with a revised 2024 fall recreation grant application from J.B. Fletcher Restoration Society. And also the Kaslo Cougar hockey team has revised their application for the 2024 fall recreation grants. And also we've had a chance to look again at the recreation grant policy. And I'm assuming that staff have vetted both these revised applications and that they are now eligible activities under our grant policy. So I'll just move to the first recommendation, which is that a 2024 fall recreation grant of $500 be issued to the J.B. Fletcher Restoration Society. Moved by Matt and seconded by Rob. Any discussion? All those in favor? Another recommendation is that a 2024 fall recreation grant of $500 be issued to the Kaslo Cougars. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that carries.
Thank you, Councillor Bird. So then that brings us to the end of the regular meeting. So for in camera, that in accordance with section 91 of the community charter, part of a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being discussed relates to or is one or more of the following: the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the council considers that the disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality or law enforcement, if the council considers that disclosure could be reasonably expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment, and that persons other than council members and municipal officers may be excluded from the meeting. I know, that's more than normal. That's why I was having trouble with it. Moved by Councillor Lang and seconded by Councillor Leaflet. Any discussion? All those in favor? So we are now in recess at 6:49.